What if your landlord could no longer evict you without a reason, or raise your rent whenever they wanted? 2025 has brought some of the most dramatic shifts in UK renting history, and the rules have changed in ways that will leave millions of tenants stunned. From scrapping no-fault evictions to banning bidding wars and giving renters the right to keep pets, these reforms are rewriting what it means to rent a home. If you think renting is just about paying on time, think again, because the laws now give tenants protections they've never had before. Number 10. Notice requirements and possession grounds. The final major change in 2025 reshapes how landlords can regain possession of their properties. Under the new framework, landlords must provide clear and specific grounds for eviction, supported by evidence. Common grounds include persistent rent arrears, damage to the property, or antisocial behavior. Importantly, every notice now carries stricter requirements, with extended timelines that give tenants more opportunity to prepare or contest the decision. This reform ensures eviction is treated as a serious process, not something that can be rushed through at a landlord's convenience. The law also standardizes notice periods to improve fairness. Tenants can expect more consistent timelines across different circumstances, reducing the confusion that previously existed between various tenancy types. For example, longer notice periods are required for rent arrears cases, and landlords must follow a formal process before possession is granted. These updates remove loopholes that once allowed landlords to act quickly without sufficient justification. Courts and tribunals now play a stronger role in reviewing cases, ensuring tenants have a chance to defend themselves if they believe the grounds are unfair or exaggerated. For renters, this change brings greater peace of mind. It means they cannot be removed without a solid reason, and they have more time to seek advice or alternative housing if eviction becomes unavoidable. For landlords, the framework still provides legitimate pathways to address genuine problems, but requires greater responsibility and documentation. This encourages professional property management and discourages misuse of eviction powers. By setting clearer rules for notice and possession, the law creates a rental system where both sides know their rights and obligations, leading to a more stable and transparent housing market. Number 9. Right to challenge market rent and dispute resolution. In 2025, tenants have been given a stronger legal right to challenge rent increases they believe go beyond fair market levels. Under the updated framework, if a landlord raises rent excessively, tenants can refer the matter to a tribunal. This body reviews the case, compares the proposed rent against similar local properties, and decides whether the increase is reasonable. The process is designed to be accessible and affordable, offering renters a practical way to push back against unfair demands without risking eviction. This creates a fairer balance of power between landlords and tenants in an area that has long been one-sided. The tribunal system also encourages greater transparency. Landlords must provide evidence to justify why an increase is appropriate, such as rising maintenance costs or market trends. This prevents arbitrary decisions and ensures adjustments reflect real-world conditions rather than profit-driven motives. At the same time, the system acknowledges that landlords still deserve a fair return on their properties, striking a balance between protecting tenant affordability and recognizing investment realities. For many renters, this means relief from the uncertainty of sudden, unexplained rent hikes. For tenants, this new right represents a major step towards stability. Knowing they have the power to dispute unfair rises gives them more confidence to plan long-term and remain in their homes without financial anxiety. For landlords, it introduces a culture of accountability where rent increases must be both fair and transparent. Number 8. Stronger enforcement and tenant protections. In 2025, new legislation has introduced tougher enforcement measures to hold landlords accountable and give tenants easier access to justice. A major feature is the creation of a national ombudsman for private renting. Tenants can now take complaints to this body without needing to go through costly or intimidating court proceedings. The Ombudsman has the power to order compensation, demand repairs, or require landlords to change their practices. This provides renters with a direct line of support, ensuring their voices are heard when problems arise. It also encourages landlords to resolve disputes early, knowing they face official scrutiny if they fail to act fairly. Local authorities have also been granted greater powers to clamp down on poor practices. Councils can issue larger fines, impose banning orders on repeat offenders, and even take over the management of properties where landlords consistently fail their obligations. These changes mark a shift away from a system that often left tenants powerless. By strengthening oversight and enforcement, the law ensures that landlords who neglect responsibilities face real consequences. This creates a safer and more balanced rental environment where bad practices cannot easily hide. For tenants, the impact is immediate. They no longer need to suffer in silence when issues go unresolved, nor do they need to navigate complex legal routes to seek help. For landlords, the new framework is a clear signal: professionalism is no longer optional, but expected. Those who meet standards will find the system fair, while those who cut corners will face penalties. By embedding stronger enforcement into the rental sector, the law raises the bar, making renting a more secure and equitable experience for millions of households across the country. Number 7. Rights for tenants with pets. For years, tenants with pets have struggled against blanket bans that excluded them from many properties. In 2025, the law has shifted to give renters a fairer chance to live with their animals. Landlords are no longer allowed to impose outright prohibitions on pets. Instead, tenants can make a formal request to keep a pet, and landlords must consider it reasonably rather than rejecting it automatically. If a landlord wishes to refuse, they must provide a valid reason supported by evidence, such as serious property concerns or unsuitable conditions. This change offers greater balance between property protection and tenant lifestyle needs. The new rules also introduce measures to address landlord concerns. For example, tenants may be asked to take out pet insurance to cover potential damage, ensuring landlords are not unfairly left with repair costs. This creates a compromise that respects both sides. The law recognizes pets as an important part of family life, improving well-being and reducing the stress of renting for animal owners. By requiring landlords to justify refusals, the legislation closes the door on arbitrary decisions that excluded many responsible tenants in the past. For renters, this is a meaningful victory. It allows families, couples, and individuals to find homes without the painful choice of leaving a beloved pet behind. It also reflects a broader recognition of pets as companions that contribute to mental and emotional health. For landlords, it encourages more professional management by providing structured ways to address risks rather than relying on blanket bans. This reform highlights a cultural shift, acknowledging that homes are not just spaces to live, but places to build fuller lives, including the presence of furry family members. Number 6. New property standards and safety obligations. In 2025, stricter property standards have been introduced to tackle long-standing issues such as damp, mold, and unsafe living conditions. The new rules extend the decent home standard to private rentals, meaning landlords must ensure their properties are safe, warm, and free from serious hazards. This includes timely repairs, proper heating, and maintaining structural integrity. Awab's law, named after a child who tragically died from mold exposure, also sets strict deadlines for addressing health risks. Landlords are now legally required to investigate and fix reported hazards within defined timeframes, ensuring tenants are no longer left waiting in unsafe environments. These obligations create accountability that has often been lacking in the rental market. Previously, many tenants felt powerless when landlords ignored complaints, leaving problems unresolved for months. Now, failure to act can lead to serious penalties, including fines or bans from renting. The law also empowers local authorities with stronger enforcement powers, making it harder for negligent landlords to avoid responsibility. This creates a system where maintaining a property to a livable standard is no longer optional, but a legal necessity. For tenants, these reforms mean healthier and safer homes that support long-term well-being. Families can feel confident that issues like mold or faulty wiring must be addressed quickly, reducing risks to health and safety. It also promotes fairness by holding all landlords to the same standards, whether they manage one property or many. For landlords, it signals a clear expectation. Rental income comes with the responsibility of maintaining homes fit for everyday life. By raising the bar on property conditions, the law ensures renting is not just about access to housing, but access to safe and decent living. Number 5. Caps on upfront charges and deposits. One of the biggest financial hurdles for renters has always been the large upfront payments required to secure a home. In 2025, new laws tighten the rules around deposits and advance rent, making the process far more accessible. Landlords can no longer demand several months' rent up front, and deposits are capped at a maximum equivalent of 1 month's rent. This ensures tenants are not burdened with excessive costs before even moving in. The reform also introduces a lifetime deposit system, allowing renters to transfer their deposit from one property to another, reducing the financial strain of moving. These measures are designed to remove unnecessary barriers that prevented many people from accessing housing. In the past, students, low-income families, and young professionals often struggled to save several months' rent, plus a deposit. Now the law ensures affordability and fairness. The lifetime deposit is particularly impactful because it prevents tenants from being trapped in a cycle of waiting for one deposit to be returned before securing their next home. This change not only eases cash flow, but also streamlines the entire moving process. For landlords, the cap requires more careful management of risks, but it also creates a clearer, standardized system. While they lose the ability to demand large sums up front, they gain a market that is fairer and more accessible to a wider pool of tenants. This balance protects responsible renters while maintaining landlord security through regulated deposits. Overall, the reform transforms the early stages of renting into a less intimidating and more affordable experience. By capping charges and deposits, the law removes a long-standing obstacle, making it easier for people to secure homes without draining their savings. Number 4. Ban on rental bidding wars and greater transparency. For many tenants, the scramble to secure a home has often meant being pressured into offering more than the advertised rent. Rental bidding wars, where multiple applicants are pushed to outbid each other, became a growing issue in competitive markets. In 2025, this practice has been outlawed. Landlords and letting agents must now list properties at a clear asking rent, and they are legally barred from encouraging or accepting secret offers above that figure. This creates a fairer environment where tenants compete on suitability rather than on who can stretch their finances the furthest. The change is designed to bring stability and transparency back into the rental process. Prospective tenants will no longer feel trapped in a silent auction that drives prices to unsustainable levels. Instead, everyone sees the same advertised rate, and landlords must operate within those terms. This reduces financial pressure on renters while promoting a more open housing market. Importantly, it also discourages unethical practices that favored wealthier tenants at the expense of those on tighter budgets, often locking out people who were otherwise perfectly suitable. For renters, this shift means applying for a property becomes less stressful and more predictable. They can budget around a realistic asking price rather than wondering how high the rent will go during negotiations. It also supports broader housing fairness, as it ensures properties are allocated based on applications and references rather than bidding power. Landlords, meanwhile, gain clarity by setting a rent that reflects the market without relying on competition-driven inflation. By outlawing bidding wars, the law marks a turning point in protecting tenants from financial exploitation and restoring trust in the rental system. Number 3. Limitations on rent increases. In 2025, new legislation places strict controls on how and when landlords can raise rent. Previously, tenants often faced sudden and steep increases, leaving them with little choice but to pay up or move out. The updated law now restricts rent rises to once per year, and landlords must provide at least 2 months' notice before any change takes effect. This gives tenants valuable breathing space to plan their finances, seek advice, or challenge a rent increase they believe is unreasonable. It also encourages landlords to set rents more carefully from the start, knowing they cannot make multiple adjustments within the same year. One of the most significant updates is the ability for tenants to dispute unfair rent hikes through an independent tribunal. This means if a landlord attempts to push rents well beyond market value, tenants have a formal avenue to challenge it. The tribunal will assess whether the increase reflects genuine market conditions or if it's excessive. This mechanism prevents abuse of power and promotes greater transparency in how rents are set. It is a practical safeguard that helps level the playing field in a sector where tenants have traditionally had less leverage. For tenants, these changes reduce the unpredictability that has long haunted private renting. Families no longer need to fear being priced out overnight, and individuals can budget more confidently, knowing rent increases are capped in frequency. At the same time, landlords are still permitted to raise rents in line with fair market trends, ensuring their investment remains viable. By introducing clarity and balance, this law signals a shift towards fairness, aiming to keep homes affordable while recognizing the economic realities of property ownership. It's a step that strengthens rental security without undermining sustainability. Number 2. End of fixed-term assured short-hold tenancies. Another major change in 2025 is the removal of fixed-term assured short-hold tenancies, commonly known as ASTs. For years, tenants were tied to contracts lasting 6 or 12 months, often leaving them vulnerable at renewal time when rents could spike or agreements might not be renewed. Now, all new tenancies are periodic from the start, rolling on a month-by-month basis. This reform creates greater flexibility for renters, while ensuring that landlords cannot use contract expirations as a quiet way of forcing tenants out. It's a move that signals a cultural shift. Renting is no longer seen as purely short-term. For landlords, this change does not remove the ability to regain possession when needed. They can still serve notice, but it must follow the updated legal framework and provide fair grounds. For tenants, the benefits are immediate. No more pressure to sign another fixed contract, no more uncertainty about sudden end dates, and no more negotiations every few months. Instead, tenants gain the freedom to leave with proper notice when life circumstances change, without being penalized for breaking a fixed term. This makes renting more adaptable to modern lifestyles, especially for those balancing work, study, or family commitments. This reform is particularly significant for people who want stability but do not wish to buy property. Students, young professionals, and families can remain in their homes as long as they choose, provided they meet their responsibilities. By making all tenancies periodic, the law balances the needs of both sides. Tenants gain security without rigid contracts, while landlords still retain rights to manage their property responsibly. Number 1. Abolition of Section 21, no-fault evictions. For years, tenants across the UK have lived with the constant worry of being asked to leave their homes without any explanation. Section 21, often called the no-fault eviction rule, gave landlords the power to remove tenants with as little as 2 months' notice, even when rent was paid on time and no rules were broken. In 2025, this has finally been scrapped. Landlords can no longer evict someone without providing a valid reason backed by legal grounds. This change is designed to give tenants a much stronger sense of stability, allowing them to live without the looming fear of sudden displacement. The shift means landlords must now rely on fair and transparent processes when they wish to reclaim their property. For example, they can still seek possession if a tenant consistently fails to pay rent, damages the property, or engages in antisocial behavior. However, every case must go through a clear legal framework where evidence is required. This makes the system more balanced, protecting responsible tenants from being unfairly forced out, while still ensuring landlords have a pathway to deal with serious breaches. The government has described this as a step towards security and fairness in the rental sector. For tenants, this law is more than just a technical update. It reshapes the meaning of renting. Families can now plan longer stays, children can attend local schools without disruption, and communities can become more stable. It also places a spotlight on landlords, many of whom must now rethink how they manage properties and maintain relationships with tenants. By ending no-fault evictions, the housing market is moving closer to treating rented homes as genuine long-term living spaces rather than temporary stops. This reform marks one of the biggest shifts in tenant protection in decades. The rental landscape in the UK has undergone a transformation in 2025, and tenants are at the heart of these reforms. With Section 21 abolished, fixed-term tenancies replaced, and strict controls on rent increases, the power balance is shifting toward fairness and stability. No longer are tenants left wondering if they will be forced out without reason or priced out by sudden, unchallenged rent hikes. Instead, they now have stronger rights, clearer protections, and genuine pathways to challenge unfair treatment. These laws also demand higher standards from landlords, ensuring homes are safe, well-maintained, and managed professionally. By banning rental bidding wars, limiting deposits, and recognizing pets as part of family life, the reforms make renting more human and less transactional. At the same time, landlords are still given legitimate tools to protect their investments, creating a framework that is fair for both sides. For tenants, this is more than policy, it's about everyday life. It means children growing up in stable communities, families planning without fear of sudden disruption, and individuals knowing their rights are backed by law. Renting in 2025 is no longer a gamble, it's becoming a pathway to secure, long-term living.